Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tamara Dawes, and I'm the president and founder of MJ Scarlett Foundation, Inc., where we educate kids, teens, and adults on how to identify sex perpetrators, know if they're being recruited, and how to protect themselves. Today, our guest is the wonderful Miss Nadine Cutno. Nadine is a human trafficking survivor, a wife, a mother, and nursing student. And guess what? She's sharing her story with the world for the first time. You got to hear it before anyone else. Nadine made a promise to God that she would, if God took her out of that situation of trafficking, she would use her story to empower other women. And you're witnessing that she's following through on her promise as she's about to share her story. Nadine, would you like to briefly give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Yes, she said, I'm Nadine Cutno. I'm a human trafficker and also a sexual abuse survivor. And I'm a nurse, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie. And I did tell the Lord, if you just get me out of this situation, I would spend the rest of my life helping others. And that's what I've been doing for most of my life. I've always helped young women who are in bad situations to try to improve their lives and improve their situations. The biggest thing is that I tell people, when you look at me, I'm writing a book, and it's my book, the title of my book is, The Book Does Not Match the Cover. So it says, I say that because when you look at me, you would never know, you would never tell that I'm a survivor of any sorts, and definitely not of human trafficking. And I do that so that other women will know, you can get out of this, and you can be anything you want to be in your life. What has happened to you does not dictate who you are. So I just want to thank you for allowing me the platform to be able to do that. This was God sent, because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it's just always a prayer and ask the Lord to put people in my way, who are going to be able to help me. And He does that every time. And you were definitely God sent.
I'm happy to be a part of this journey.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, I know when we spoke previously, you told me that you were molested. So tell me about the molestation and how that led to you being trafficked.
The molestation started when I was the summer before my 11th birthday. So it's like 10 and a half, making 11, actually the month of my 11th birthday. It's the first time I'd ever spent the night outside my house, but my perpetrator was a groomer. He had been grooming my parents and grooming my family, and he was a member of the family. So it started when I was 11 years old. The sexual abuse started at that point. And then he groomed me up to the trafficking. And the trafficking started when I was 14.
Okay. And then you told me that you were trafficked locally. Then he kidnapped you and took you to another state where he continued trafficking you?
Correct. He started the grooming process locally. My trafficker, my abuse and my trafficking was a unique situation. He started the trafficking locally, right around the corner from my house. Is where it started. Yeah, because that's where he lived. So it started right around the corner from my house. And it was funny how the community knew about what was going on. My family knew about what was going on, the abuse, but they didn't know about the trafficking portion of it. So the grooming started when I was 14. He started the trafficking, and it was just like local men in the area, men who he worked with, for drugs, for alcohol, for cigarettes, or just for fun. And the finale was when I was 17, he kidnapped me and brought me here to Florida. So my trafficking was here in Florida, in Pensacola. And I was there where he met two other men who had women that they were trafficking. And they formed this collaboration with the women and with me, because I was the youngest person. So it was here.
And we talked about familial trafficking before on this program, that a lot of people think that a trafficker is someone that drags you off the street and kidnaps you. No. And this is another clear example that familial trafficking is so it's so big where most traffickers know their victims or know, they befriend them before they traffic them. Traffickers are patient. They
Right.
take their time to groom you,
Yes.
to be trafficked.
To gain the trust, they have to gain your trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a process. So they have to know that you're not going to tell. They have to know that you believe in them, you trust them, and usually it's girls who come from broken homes, homes that are in dysfunction. So they take advantage of that because they become your confidant. So they learn all
Mhm.
the information about you, and that's how they begin their journey. Because then they know that you're vulnerable and you're looking for a family or a father figure. So a part of the family becomes you and other girls, and that's what they tell you, that this is your family now, you know. So that's how it starts.
And a lot of young ladies are upset with their parents and they go on all these social media and they may type in hashtag I hate my
Exactly.
parents, hashtag I'm mad,
Exactly.
hashtag I want to run away. And the traffickers out there looking for all those hashtags as well.
Exactly.
And they're, so
Exactly.
now they know what is wrong with you when they figured a way how to talk to you and to gain your trust so that they can then befriend you and then lower you into trafficking.
Exactly. That's what happened to me. I was in a dysfunctional household. My father was an alcoholic and drug addict, and there was a whole lot of violence going on in the home. And he knew that because he was familiar with my family, and he took advantage of that. Do you want to talk about it? It's so sad what's happening to you. You don't deserve this. And that's how they start off. And he gained my trust. And then he started gaining the trust of my mother.
Mhm.
I could be a big brother for her. I can, be a father figure for her, and blah, 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 blah. And then they make their move when they know that they've gotten your full trust.
Right. And you said there were other young ladies with you in Pensacola that were also trafficked from other states.
Oh, it's like at the time I was 17 when I was there, and of course you don't have a whole lot of experience or meeting people, but I met women and young girls from all over the country who were there working um, in a wide area of Pensacola. And we all became very friendly. Like I said, I was the youngest person at that point.
Mhm.
So they would all call me, little sister. And a part of showing me the ropes was to help me protect myself, you know,
Right.
to help me. And it was just so sad because a lot of the women, when I think about them, they were taken from their homes. I remember one girl from Detroit, one girl from New Jersey, and they didn't feel like they can go back home because of the life they had started living, you know.
Right.
So the trafficker also preys on
The
that you can't go back
shame, the
home.
guilt.
Shame. Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then because a lot of people are re-victimized when they tell their story, and a lot of people don't trust that they're telling the truth, then they don't feel that they can share their story with someone that will be able to help them.
Exactly. 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 If your family has turned their back on you
Mhm.
and denied you, then what makes you think anybody else is? And that's one thing as a family, but families have to realize that it is painful, it is shameful, but that person's still a victim. And you can't make them feel shameful. You can't make them feel like they've done something so detrimental that they can't ever come back home and rely on their family, you know.
Exactly. Which state were you when the trafficking originally started?
Louisiana.
Okay.
Louisiana. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. My trafficking started in Kenner, Louisiana, which is
Wow.
like a little suburb outside of New Orleans.
Mhm. I know that you told me. How did you get out of trafficking? How did you get away from your trafficker?
It's difficult. It's very difficult because, like I said, the person reiterates to you all the time that this is your family. They invoke fear. You feel like you can't do anything else. No one else is going to accept you. You're not going to have another life. And that's why I tell young women to look at me. Um, and one thing that the girls taught me was if you need to get out, and if you ever want to get out a little bit, which they say, you have to have a plan. You
Mhm.
have to have a plan because they will find you, you know.
Mhm.
So my thing from that point on, when I was given that conversation, was a plan. What would be my plan and how would I get out of this? You know,
What was your plan?
I didn't have a concrete plan in the beginning. I need to say that because I was very fearful because in human trafficking and in abuse, you know this, it's psychological, it's emotional, it's sexual, and it's physical. So I had all the entities involved. And the thing that the decision making was for me, I had been kidnapped by one of the other guys and held hostage in a room with a gun for 2 days, and him threatening to inject drugs in me, heroin, and make me an addict. And I was very fearful because that's the one thing that I was able to stick to. Unlike most of the girls that I worked with and encountered, they all were on drugs. So that was my limit. I'm not going to do drugs because I knew once I did the drugs, then I would definitely be caught and I couldn't get out.
Right.
Now, occasionally he would make me do, my perpetrator would make me do drugs, start cocaine or smoke marijuana, but I didn't want to become hooked on drugs.
No, because that's another way of controlling you.
Exactly. And I watched the alcohol and the drug abuse within my home where I came from. So I knew that that was not going to be a good thing. And when I was under the influence of drugs, I didn't like the way it made me feel. That you do not have control. You have no decision-making power. You can't make a conscientious, rational decision about what you're doing. So I didn't want to become a drug addict. So this guy kept me for 2 days hostage, gunpoint, and threatened to kill me for days, 2 days.
Wow. You must have been very terrified.
I was terrified, yes, very terrified, because it was a hotel that had boarded up windows. So I couldn't see outside, didn't know the day from another day. How I found out I had been gone for 2 days was when he dropped me back off at my work spot, because you have a work spot, where my perpetrator was. One of the girls who had really befriended me was waiting there. And I later found out that she was working with him and had helped him to do the kidnapping,
So you don't even know who to trust.
You don't know who to trust. Oh, no, you don't know who to trust. And I wasn't angry at her because I understood she was in fear also, because they sell you from one to the other. And it was to make me become a part of his tribe. And so she told me that. But when I got back to my spot, my perpetrator was waiting, and he beat me within an inch of my life. I was in a coma for, I don't know, a day or so. And I remember waking up, and the people who owned the hotel were cleaning the room. And the parents and the son were standing over me in the bed. And I could hardly open my eyes. And the father told the son, I guess, to get a towel from the bathroom. And he put the towel on my face and started to clean my face for me. And I drifted back out to sleep. And when I woke up, I was like, I ran to the bathroom, I walked to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and my whole face was distorted.
Oh, no.
Yes. So I started to gather my things. I'd been saving money off of the top of my work, and I had the money in a shoe, and I went to the shoe to get the money, and it was gone.
He took it.
He took the money, right. So I was able to gather what I could, climb out of a window, and I saw the girl, Coco, and she helped me to get to the bus station.
That was the same girl that ratched you out to the other person too.
Exactly.
So she really had a good heart, but it was really survival of the fittest.
Oh, yeah.
My life or yours.
Yes, exactly. That's why you can't. And you learn that when you're out there, that it's really no trust. I always say it's no honor among thieves. It's no trust. But basically, you have to trust someone. And you can't be angry because we're all out here trying to survive.
Right.
One girl had gotten killed while I was there.
Wow.
And yeah, this girl who I'm telling you about, Coco, told me that her trafficker had killed her. Yeah.
So, and that's not unique because Niecy's mom, and we talked about Dr. Niecy Hamilton that's been on the previous show. Her mom, her mother was murdered by her trafficker as well.
Yes.
So that's not uncommon.
Yes, it happens. And sometimes they'll sacrifice one to prove to the rest of us that it can be done and that they will do it. They will
So
do it.
you being almost beaten to death was your breaking point when you know that I have to get out of here, otherwise I'm going to die.
Yeah, because he felt that I had went voluntarily with this guy and that I was thinking about leaving him to go work for this guy,
Ah,
you know.
so he wanted to show that you were his property.
Exactly, exactly. And teach me a lesson. Exactly. You know,
How did you get away? We know you got through the window and your money was stolen, and then what happened?
I got to the bus station and I called my mother and at that time we couldn't pay for Visa card. She had a Visa card. You couldn't pay for your bus ticket over the phone. So she convinced the people at the bus station that we could pay for it on the other end. Where they saw my face was all swollen and bruised, and they allowed me to get on the bus. And once I got on the bus and the bus was all ready to go, he pulled up and he started banging on the door of the bus, telling them he was my brother and I was running away. Well, the bus driver saw my face and I was screaming to him, "Do not open the door. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. If you open that door, he's going to kill me." And the people on the bus was telling the bus driver to drive. And he
Amen.
drove off. And he drove off. And I can remember always that there was a man and a woman who took care of me the whole trip back to New Orleans. When I wanted to go to the bathroom, they would go to the bathroom with me. I didn't have any money. They bought me food. This lady was getting off the bus in Mobile, Alabama, and she turned me over to this man. And she said, "Don't leave her." And I later found out that he was supposed to get off, I think, in Gulfport, Mississippi. But he rode all the way to New Orleans with me. He said, "I'm not going to leave you until I turn you over to your family."
Amazing. So you had angels with you
Oh
protecting
my
you along
God.
that way.
That's why I have to be an angel. That's why I have to be one. I have to. I
You
have
have
to
to
be
pay
one.
it forward.
Exactly. Exactly. And because when I was on the streets, people took care of me. People took care of me. Like, "No, you don't go with him. That's not a good person for you to go with.
Right.
I'm going to watch while you do what you have to do. I'm going to stay here and watch out to make sure it's okay and you don't get hurt." So yeah, I was protected while I was out there. I was protected
Awesome.
while I was out there.
Another thing that people don't realize, you talked about the emotional, physical, and mental trauma that you went through. But a lot of people don't realize that human trafficking is more mental slavery than physical slavery. And that's why a lot of victims have Stockholm syndrome, because they start identifying with their captors and think
Oh
that,
yeah,
no, this person is protecting me and looking out for my best interest, when really
exactly,
that's not the case.
exactly,
But you've been
exactly.
brainwashed to believe that.
And when you have a young person whose mind is not developed to begin with, that's why we tell our kids, you don't know because your mind's not developed, and they invoke the fear in you, but of course the compassion. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone to understand you. You know,
And they're
so that's
filling
what
that
they
void.
exactly, and that's what they start off with. So it's fully emotional. So when people say, "Well, why didn't you tell someone?" Why didn't you get away? Why didn't you, run away? Why didn't you tell the police? It's a whole lot involved in that. We were talking about that today, how people said, well, after Nisi's story, why didn't she just tell the judge that it's just not that simple. And Nisi said something to me that was so powerful. She said, if you've not been trafficked, you don't know what it's like. You can't say that. You have to understand it. And if you don't do your homework, like when I told my husband, that was the nail in the coffin with him, because when he came back to me, he had done all his research on abuse. He had done all his
Awesome.
research, right? So he understood, because of course his first question was the same thing that everybody else's question is: why didn't you tell someone? Why didn't you go to the police? If your family didn't go to the police, why didn't you do it? So it's, you have to understand the syndrome.
So that's my other question. Did you ever report it to the police after you went back home?
No,
You were scared?
no. My perpetrator, my trafficker, was a member of the family. So my family knew about my abuse the whole time I was being abused. But my family put that on me. You need to stop. You need to leave him alone. They felt like I was sleeping with the grown man. It was something that I wanted, that I was asking for. So, my family didn't want to go to the police because they felt like it would be a whole, division in the family if he were arrested, you know. Um, and a part of it with my family was to save one of my brothers. It was my brother's brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Daniel was married to his wife Michelle, so it was Michelle's brother. Yeah. So it was, they felt like it would create a division in his marriage. So I was basically a sacrificial lamb.
You
So
were
when
the
I went,
sacrifice.
right. So when I went back home after this, and my mother saw my face, and I had another brother that picked me up from the bus station, my brother Kenneth. And after they saw my face, it was never what happened.
It was like you asked for it.
You asked for this, you ran away, you asked for this. So now we're gonna conform to a normal life. I went straight to college the next day,
Wow.
yes. And we're not gonna talk about this, and we're not gonna talk about what happened, where were you, or any of that, and what happened to you while you were gone. You're gonna conform to a normal life at this point.
So the trauma was never taken care of.
Oh no, definitely not, definitely not.
And that's what I've heard other victims say, not only did their parents fail them, but the community that knew about it and did nothing about it failed them too. And then the victims shame them and treat the victims as if they're the perpetrator, like what happened in your case. And you really don't know who to trust or who to talk to because nobody understands what happened to you. They're thinking you're a fast girl that was looking for this, and this happened to you because you want to be with grown men, not realizing that you were brainwashing this guy and raped you and kidnapped you, and then was selling you to multiple people for just about everything, for cigarettes, for drugs, for money, just about for everything.
Exactly. I have an issue. I've said this over the years when I speak to young women. I have an issue when people call young women fast. I don't like that. It sends me reds because we need to find out why she's fast. Most girls want to be little girls. They want to play with their baby dolls. They want to be normal. So when she's fast and that little girl is sleeping with men and she's screwing everybody, well, let's find out what happened to that little girl. Let's find out something happened. It's
socialization.
Exactly.
It is socialization. Because some stuff that my 9-year-old say, I just think it's so cute and amazing at just how innocent he is. And I was telling my sister yesterday that in one sense, he's very mature. But when it comes to like sexual stuff or whatever, he knows nothing. Right. And the innocence is so beautiful, and I realized that they only know what we expose them to. Exactly. And I was like, Lord, help me to continue making him innocent until it's time for him to know that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So you're absolutely right. What are they being exposed to while they're quote unquote fast?
Whenever I've had people to come to me about their daughters or their sons, and the child's acting inappropriate or saying inappropriate things or watching pornography, and we had an incident with one of our church members' sons who was watching pornography, and he talked about pornography all the time. And it's like, where did he get that from? Because most kids, if they turn pornography on, they're going to be ashamed. They're going to be, they're going to be shy about it. They don't want to see naked people. But if they sit and they watch it, it's what they've been exposed to, what they've seen.
And they become desensitized.
Exactly.
But remember, too, the statistics said that 1 in 7 children receive sexual solicitation online. And about kids under 10, I believe it is, consume 20% of online porn. So you're talking about they're watching something simple and there's a pop-up and something pornographic happens. And if the parent doesn't sit down and have a good conversation with them, then they're going to want more and more and more. And that's why, there's a lot of organizations that's trying to, stop this from happening, the truth about porn and stop the new drugs and stuff like that, because it's the reality. Yeah. Also, watching the porn also lead to them, wanting to traffic other girls or having deviant sexual behaviors.
Exactly. And if some children are being trafficked or some children who are being abused, they're forced to watch porn by their abusers.
As a way of desensitizing them so they think it's okay, and it's not okay.
And they pass that on to the kids at school, or they pass that on to
Mhm.
their friends. And it's the recruiting, because I was led to recruit, to try to
Kids
recruit
recruit
other
other
girls.
crew, other kids.
I was led to recruit other kids, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I was resistant a lot of times with doing that. But sometimes I had to be compliant because the consequences were so great. You know,
Right.
they were so
Right.
great. So you are a part of that. You become a part of that world.
Unfortunately.
Yes, yes, you do.
So I know you said you went on to college immediately after going back home. How
Hmm.
did you do in college? How did you adjust to going back to quote unquote a normal life, dealing with all that trauma?
Well, my perpetrator came looking for me. So my first semester was very tumultuous in college because he would stalk me, and he would, make threats against me. Um, if I would go home on the weekends, I would stay inside the whole weekend in fear. And so one day he did kidnap me again,
Hmm.
um, pulled up on side of me, snatched me into the car, and punched me in my face.
Wow.
And he was livid because I'd been ignoring the
Hmm.
advances. Um, and I was able to fight him and jump out of the window,
Awesome.
and jump out of a window. And I remember going back to school, and he came on campus, and my roommate at the time, she was like, "What is wrong? What's going on?" And of course, she doesn't know who this man is. She thinks that he's a boyfriend, an old boyfriend. And he made a phone call to my dorm. And I was, screaming at him on the phone to leave me alone. And my roommate took the phone from me. And
Hmm.
she talked to him like I had never spoken to him before. She cursed him out and called him all kind of names and told him that I would cut your throat from ear to ear. And I was like, "He is going to kill you." She was like, "I'm not scared of him." And that was empowerment for me. From that day on,
Hmm.
I was like, wow, this worked.
She gave you your power back.
Oh, she gave me my power back. It wasn't until 2 years ago I was able to, I went to Detroit to visit her, and I was able to tell her that, you
But
know.
in your mind, even though you were a teenager now, you were still that little 11-year-old girl that he
Oh, yeah,
started abusing that was fearful of him. So you
right.
were not, challenging him.
Your growth stops at the day your
Yes.
abuse starts,
Yes.
you know. So sometimes I have to talk to the 11-year-old
So there's
to
like
let
the
her know it's okay.
physical growth where you're aging, and there's a psychological aging. So there's like different stages of,
Exactly, exactly,
yes.
exactly, exactly.
What helped you to heal?
I pushed the abuse in the back of my mind for years. You asked me about college. It took me a while to conform. It took me a while to be normal. I'd never been normal. Had
Mhm.
I couldn't talk about dates in high school. I
Mhm.
couldn't talk about a high school boyfriend. I couldn't talk about going to the prom with the boy.
Mhm.
My senior prom, I went alone and was, beaten the night of my senior prom for going to the prom.
By the
So
guy?
by the guy, right? So I couldn't have those kind of conversations. So it took me a while. I even couldn't make them up, you know? So it took me a while to be able to date in college. Like I said, the first semester was a struggle, a mental struggle for me.
Mhm.
I wanted to quit several times because you don't feel like you belong because you know what life you've lived and where you've come from. So you
Mhm.
can't relate to any of these girls. And I was able to push it in the back of my mind.
Awesome.
PTSD, you know. And it wasn't until I was maybe 27
Mhm.
that I had a traumatic experience happen to me again that brought up all the abuse, and I went to counseling.
Awesome.
7 years. I spent 7 years in counseling
And counseling has helped you to heal somewhat because this is the trauma you have to live with
for the
for the
rest of my
rest of your
life.
life.
But it gave me coping skills. It gave me
Awesome.
coping. Counseling gave me the coping skills and the tools that I needed, to be able
Because
to get through it.
the brain has a funny way of suppressing trauma,
Yeah.
and then you go through post-traumatic stress when something happens that triggers it off.
Exactly, exactly. And I went through a stressful situation, and all of this stuff came up, and I was like, I thought I was over it, not understanding that I really wasn't over it. I've been living it every day, and I live with it every day. But counseling saved my life because I was ready to take my life. I was ready to take
Wow.
my life. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't. And counseling is good. I would encourage anyone who's experienced trauma to find some kind of counseling to go to, because if you find a positive way of dealing with the trauma that has affected your life, then
Hmm.
you won't want to take your life, because you're able to find a good way of living with it. It will never go away. The
Never.
trauma of seeing life leave our 2 year or 2 months old daughter's body not once but twice,
Wow.
well, it's etched in my mind forever.
Right.
But this organization and a lot of the other stuff that I do has given me positive ways of dealing with the trauma. So instead of thinking about it in a negative way, I put a positive spin on it that
Right.
is helping me to go through life, not feeling that I'm broken and I'm shattered, but feeling empowered that this is a great organization that's helping people. And my daughter's spirit is just over me every day doing this
Yes.
with me.
Yes. 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 You know, it's funny that you say that. In our community, counseling means I'm crazy.
It's frowned upon.
You know, it's another social stigma. I worked at HIV for years, and the biggest fight in HIV was to help to diminish the stereotypes in our community about
Mhm,
HIV and the stigmas.
mhm.
So counseling has the same kind of connotations in our community, and we
Sure.
as African Americans have to learn that it's not embarrassing to go to counseling. It's a sign of strength. It's not weakness. You know, and when our
Absolutely.
children are traumatized, we have to send our children to counseling, and we have to go to counseling with them. And first, we have to go to counseling. You know, when you say the word broken, um, I had someone from the DA's office tell me that, you know, about being broken. And I had to think about that. And I said, you know, I don't like that word, because if something's broken, you can't put it back together, right?
Mm-mm.
If the glass is shattered and it's broken, it can't go back together.
No.
So we can be put back together. You
Yes.
know, so when we use broken, it's like it's a sense of defeat, you know, of
Hmm.
hopelessness. And
Exactly.
so I don't like to say broken. And I don't like when women say that, you know, I'm broken, you know, my spirit was so broken. No, your spirit just received a hit, you know, your spirit is bruised,
And you
not
can
broken.
bounce back, and the
You can
bruise is
bounce
going to
because
be
bruises
healed.
heal. Bruises heal. You know,
Hmm.
brokenness doesn't. You know, so bruises heal. So I don't
Sure.
like for women to say I'm broken. Just that you're bruised. I was bruised, and you know, this is going to sound so funny what I'm about to say. And a lot of people have not understood this over the years when I've talked about my abuse. But I'm so thankful to God for my abuse. I'm sad that it happened to
Hmm.
me, but I'm so thankful because it made me who I am today. It made me know my purpose in life very early. A lot of people spend the rest of their lives looking for their purpose, and all things happen to us for a reason. And we can say, "Why me?" But how the Bible says, "Why not me?" You know. And I say, "Thank you, God,
Hmm.
because you put me here to be a catalyst for other women." You
At
know,
such a time as this.
it's right. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
My
Exactly.
sister shares the same sentiments you do, you know. I've been getting a lot of like text and email from people. I mean, there's a young lady in California, and she says, I've never missed one of your workshops. You did an amazing job. And just, each day, if I get up one day and I feel like, oh, I can't do this, somehow God sends someone with a positive affirmation to tell
Right.
me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And my sister is like, girl, you have found your purpose. Like, my background is human rights law, and I didn't plan on doing this area of human rights law because human trafficking does fall under human rights.
Right.
But something negative can happen in your life, but it's really God ushering you into your purpose. Because to find
Right.
your purpose, there has to be a problem that you need to solve. And
Exactly.
exactly, and this is the way of solving this problem of educating people that needs to be educated about the horrors of human trafficking and how to protect themselves, and empowering ourselves too. Because with you, Nadine, not talking about it empowered your trafficker. But when you
Yeah.
expose your trafficker and expose what he has done to you, you're taking the power back from him and let him know that this
Exactly.
is my life. You started controlling it when I was 11 years old, but no, I'm taking the power back. And your friend in the dorm helped you to take that power back to let you know it's your life. You're in charge of it. Nobody controls you, you know? So that
right.
was amazing. You're
And when
not
you
his slave
become,
anymore.
right, and when you become empowered towards your perpetrator, towards your trafficker, they don't want that.
No.
They don't want that. They want you to be weak. So when I started asserting strength towards him and able to talk to him the way that, say, my roommate talked to him,
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't believe it. And, you know, I said to him, I said, either I prayed to God and I said, God, you're going to get me out of this situation once and for all. Either he's going to be gone and leave me alone, or I'm going to die, one or the other. And I said to him one day, I said, if you know, he's threatening to kill me like he always does. And I said, I'm ready to die. Only thing I ask is that you allow my mother to find my body.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was one thing that he knew was a fear of mine. He would always threaten that he would kill me and my mother would never find my body. So I always wanted my mother to find my body so she could have closure. And so I
Right.
said to him this day, I said, just allow my mother to find my body, but I'm ready to go because I'm not doing this anymore. You
And
know?
that freedom from fear was relieved from you too, because I'm not
Oh yeah,
fearful anymore. Do what you want with me.
do what you want
So
with me.
now guess what
Exactly.
happened? The very thing that he was using as power over you, you're
Exactly.
like, okay, I don't care. So now he doesn't have that power anymore.
Exactly. And that's why I tell young women about, you know, my job is, my company is to empower, enlighten, educate, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
encourage. And that's why I tell them empowerment is so great. You know, it's such a powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are empowered, then no one. I teach my daughter that if you can look people in the eye and speak, and you are empowered, you have a voice. Don't let anyone diminish your voice. And that is what perpetrators work to do, to diminish your voice. And I tell my daughter all the time, the goal is to reduce you to the lowest common denominator, which is what? Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they want to do. Your self-esteem,
Exactly.
they want to take it all from you, take the power from you. And when you get the power back, it's amazing. I saw that. It was amazing when I got my power back. I got my life
Awesome.
back. You know, I got my life back. So yeah, we have to be able to empower our children, talk openly with our children. I'm very open about sex with my kids. I talk about all kinds of stuff with them. And I'm not ashamed. A part of the workshops that I do with young women is to have them be empowered with their bodies. Get to know your body, young women.
Right.
Know that it's a penis. Know that it's a vagina. You know, be able to
Mm-hmm.
say that. So that way you're empowered already. So if someone violates those things, if someone violates your body, then you're able to speak about the violation. You know?
Exactly. Because when you call your genitals those little silly names, when something happens, nobody knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So
I've
we
been a
need to
court
teach our
advocate.
children the right way.
And I've seen so many cases thrown out of court because it was a pocketbook, because it was a garage, because it was a wiener, you know. My mother used to always say, my daughter, when she was able to say hi and bye, she was able to say vagina, my vagina, you know. Why are you teaching her that? Because I'm empowering her, you know.
Absolutely.
And because my mother had went to therapy with me, she understood. You know, I had to empower my children. So yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
What advice would you give to survivors who are suffering in silence?
To speak, to speak. Everyone's going to speak in their time.
Mhm.
Um, but it wasn't until I started talking about my story and sharing my story with the people who I loved. I got tired of living a lie. Um, that to me was worse than the abuse in a way,
Mhm.
because you're living with something and you're suffering in silence. So you have to put this mask on. You have to smile when you're not happy.
Mhm.
You know, I still have dreams, the PTSD. So in the morning when I wake up and I've had a bad dream and I'm exhausted the next day, I would have to put a face on for my spouse or for the person who I was with. And they didn't know what my real story was. If I saw something that disturbed me, I couldn't talk about it. And I made the promise to myself that I would speak the truth. Own your truth and live your truth. It's who you are. It doesn't define you, right? But it's your life.
It's a chapter in your story. It's
It's a
not your
chapter in your
entire
story.
story.
It's not your entire story. So when I met my husband, I told him my story, the whole story. from A to Z, because I promised
Awesome.
myself if I was going to be with someone who I truly loved, then they need to know who I was. For them too, because it's not fair for them if they find out in midstream.
Sure.
Let them make the decision like you want to make the decision. Let them make the decision if they want to be with you. So I told them from A to Z. And I said, I understand it's a big pill to swallow and you don't have to deal with it. I understand that. I have no ill feelings. If you decide to listen, he did his homework and he came back and he said, let's deal with this. What do I need to do? What do you need from me? You know, well, I dream at night. I may see something that may trigger some feelings. I need you to understand that. I'm not in the best of moods some days because I'm dealing with the trauma. And he understood that. So speak your truth. Own your truth of who you are is what I would tell young women. And then decide to talk about it. Whether it's in a support group, you know, I did support group with domestic violence, with sexual abuse survivors. If it's in support group, deal with it and talk about it and speak it, because you can't live it alone by yourself. That's not going to help. It's just, like you said, it helps to empower the perpetrator more and more and more. The other thing is speak his name. My perpetrator's name was Leroy. It took me years to speak his name, to say Leroy. I couldn't say it. But I had to realize that by not saying his name, I was empowering him.
Yes.
I was giving him more power, you know? So talking about it, speaking your truth, speaking your perpetrator's name, and then it'll lead to all the other stuff. I was talking to Nisi about this, about validation from my family. And so people ask me, why was I doing this with you? You know, people who know my story.
Right.
You know, what is she doing? Is she up to something? Is she selling your story? You know, are you sure you're ready to do this? Are you sure you're ready to deal with this? You know, why are you reliving this? And of course, those are all from people who've never lived it.
Right.
When you have trauma, you know that, right? You think about your baby every day.
Every
right?
day.
Every day. So not speaking, because I don't call you on the phone and I'm screaming and I'm hooping and howling, does not mean it's not with me every day. So it's with me every day.
It's a part of you.
It's a part of me. And you have to be free from people. That's another thing I would tell young women. Get free from people. I'm trying to teach my daughter at 17. I didn't learn it till later in life. And honestly, I didn't learn it till I met my husband, who talks about soul ties, right? And he talks about soul ties and being free from people. And I didn't know what soul ties was. I hadn't dealt with that. And I learned so much from him talking about soul ties, that I had a soul tie. We had to pray that soul tie off. So what is
soul tie? Tell us.
Soul ties. You want him to tell you?
Yeah.
Tell us what soul ties are. Come on. In a few little words, he'll tell you what soul ties are. And I didn't know what a soul tie was.
Yes. But soul ties, this is on a spiritual level. So having sex with somebody is just not having sex with somebody. That's why the Bible says, you know, when two come together, you come together as one. So that's your soul meshing together with that other person. So to make it real simple, if I was a virgin and my wife was a virgin and we never met anybody. So by the time we got together, our souls only meshed together. So I only know her, she only knows me. So I don't crave anybody else. So if I see another woman, I don't have those cravings because I don't have those comparisons. I don't have all these 5, 6, 20, 30 people that were with me that I brought into the marriage. And Nadine doesn't have all these 30, 40 people that she brings into the marriage. That's the meshings of souls. That's why God put man and woman together just for that. When you talk about evenly yoked, that's what evenly yoked
That's
means.
true.
So most of the abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, those are all forms of soul ties. So if two people come together, say no one knows about soul ties, and I was a ball out there, and I slept with 1,000 women. So I bring all 1,000 of those women into that marriage with me. So when I have sex with my wife, and then I do it what the freaks did me, then I think I got a problem with my wife. Why? Because everybody's there.
Right.
So this is the vessel that God gave you. And we also bring Jesus to bed with us also. You got to always remember that this is the vessel. So now you got nothing but confusion. It's all confusion. So and a lot of times when men and women,
all that spirits.
That's all the spirits in you.
Exactly.
See, so every time I see these programs on abuse, like Ayana, you know, Van Zandt, Fix My Life, She never deals with the soul ties of it. Well, the reason these people are with this particular guy, why he's with 15 women, is because they're still tied to it. Doesn't matter if he knows about the other woman. It's just that natural calling. So you can even crave the rapist and the abuser if you don't know that you've sexually tied with this person.
How do you set yourself free?
You have to pray it off.
And that's what we did. He told me about soul ties one night, and we prayed all night.
Yeah, you
And
call
you
the
have to
names.
call the
Awesome.
names, and that's what he said.
You call the names out. If you can't remember all of them,
Right.
you know, you tell that in your prayer. I don't remember all of them. God knows who they all were. But you got to pray that off. Now, you just can't pray just to be praying because it's, you know, it's nice to pray. Because God knows what? He knows your heart.
Right.
He
So
knows
it's got to
your
be
heart.
fervent prayer. Otherwise, you can't be released from that.
Right.
You're
I
following.
love it. I love it. It's true. I love that analogy.
We
Yeah,
do.
you
Beautiful.
have to be released for
We
that.
do a workshop on that,
Yeah.
on soul ties.
It's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
And we spent all night this night. We didn't get ready.
Yeah.
We spent all night this night
Thank you.
praying all night. And I tell you, we prayed that night, and we prayed the next morning, and we prayed the next day. And it was, he's telling the truth. When I think about men from my past now, no cravings. Don't wish I would have been with them. What did I lose? None of that. None of that. You know, so, you know, when we do that workshop, it's powerful with people about soul ties, and it works. And because of where I come from, people don't know the book. You know, they think we're just doing a soul tie workshop, but they don't know the book, that I'm a testimony that it works.
Exactly.
You know, so that's how I became free. You know,
That's
from
amazing. And you know what? The Bible doesn't go wrong, because when the Bible tells you know that, you know, it's supposed to be one man to one woman and stuff like that, it's to protect us. It's to protect us and to protect the family structure.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're not perfect. Like you said, we came with multiple stuff. Both of us, him too. And
Exactly.
like I said, that night, he was like, once and for all, I'm praying all the soul ties, and we're done. And we've been together, what, 12 years? We've been together 12 years, and it's just been us. You know, it's just been us. And people say, do you worry about your husband cheating? No, I don't worry about my husband cheating.
He's your soulmate. You guys
My soulmate.
are perfect together.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's so understanding. God gave you the person that you needed at that time to get that breakthrough. Somebody that understands. And that's another reason to share your story, because if you didn't tell him when you're going through the nightmares or when you get up and have your bad day, he wouldn't know what's going on with you, and he wouldn't know how to help you.
Exactly.
So it's important to share that information with our spouse.
When you ask me about telling women, you have to talk about it. And it's difficult. You know, I told you I had a revelation with you and I in our conversation that we had about when exactly did my human trafficking start. I had never spoke that. I never spoke that to anyone. But you were the first person I spoke that with outside of my husband. But you were the first person outside of my husband who I spoke that to at 14.
Wow.
And to say it at 14. You know, I watched my daughter go through the ages. And every time, like at 11 years old, it was like, you know, we had another PTSD come up with us at 11 years old with my daughter. And, you know, I was bent on breaking the cycles. So when I watch her make her milestones in life, like now she's 17, she's getting ready for graduation, she's planning graduation, she's planning going to college. And I look at that and I had none of that, you know, and I thank God that I'm able to provide her the platform, a safe platform for her to be able to do that, you know.
In Jesus' name. How do you feel? Are you very protective of her because of what you've been through?
Oh, crazy. Crazy. Crazy protective. Yes.
I figured.
Crazy protective, but we talk. We talk to her. She doesn't know my whole story. She will after this. Know the whole story. But I talk to her about social media. There's no social media. You cannot be on social media unless it's under, you know, me or something. She has a car now. Call me when you get where you're going. Call me when you leave. This is what you need to look for in the mall. This is what you need to look for when you're friends. And I've spoken to her so much. It was so funny. We were out one night and she said, "Ma, look at that guy over there." And I said, where? She said, he's looking very suspicious. Why is he just standing there? And I said, good observation, you know?
She's
So
recognizing the
yeah,
signs.
exactly. So yeah, I am overprotective. And a part of her knowing my story is to know why I've been like I am. Because they will sneak in on you. You know, I can tell her, like, prisoners wake up every day to scam in prison. Perpetrators wake up every day to perpetrate.
And that's
Like
what
you
their
said,
plan is.
they're
Who is going to be
planning.
my victim today?
Exactly. They're on, and I tell her, you know, on social media, they may come as Pookie, right? And want to friend you. And you see this good looking guy, but you don't friend him. And then he comes as Ray Ray the next time, you know, and then you don't friend him then. And he's going to keep trying till one day he's going to be Brian. And you may say, but this has been the same guy the whole time.
They're just persistent.
Persistent. That's what they do. That's their business. So he's 30 years old, but you thinking he's 17 like you. And then when you meet him at the mall, in the park, you know, he drives up in a car. I have one girl, he drove up in the car and told her that he was there to pick her up for his nephew.
Wow.
Exactly. And it was over with for her. It was over with.
That's sad.
Yeah.
But it's that easy. And a lot of times we don't realize that. We give our children all of these devices, but we also give a million people out there access to them via these devices. And there is no 100% protection mechanism or software that you can use to filter out every bad thing. No. So we have to be the eyes and ears for our children.
Exactly. We gotta pray for them. I plead the blood of Jesus every day over them.
Amen.
But the most important thing is we have to talk to our children. Everybody brings their kids to me. I was telling Nisi this. My family is supportive, not my brothers, because I've cut off ties with my family. That's one thing I want to talk about too when I finish this. But you know, they'll send all their kids to me to talk about sex because I talk so openly. You know, you go talk to your nana about that. Go talk to your auntie about that. Go talk to your godmother about that. You know, because they don't want to deal with it. And it's like, why not? You know, so I talk very candid. You know, I'll have condoms at my house before, you know, for my nephews. You're not going to be, abstinence is always the first thing, but that's not the realization. So use a condom. You know, my nieces use a condom. You know, so we were talking about freedom from your family. It took me a while to get over not being validated by my family. I wanted my family to say, I'm sorry for what happened to you. I'm so sad it happened to you, but we love you and we embrace you. That never came.
And it might never happen.
I had to learn in therapy, it may never happen. And if you wait on that, then you're going to stay in the sickness. So if you want to heal and you want to get better and be able to live some type of a normal life, because you're never going to be normal. And that's what I tell people, when you touch and violate a child, you don't know what you've done. When you violate a woman, you don't know what you've done. You know, the penalty is far worse than the death penalty. You know what I'm saying? It's far worse than the death penalty. So I would say that to other girls, don't look for the validation from your family. I cut off ties with my family. I was free from people. So I was telling you that people ask, why am I doing this? Why are you doing it? Because I'm free from people. Aren't you worried about the backlash? And what if people start sending you hate emails or hate this or hate? I'm free from people. They can't hurt me the way I've been already hurt in life. You know what I'm saying?
You're operating at your new normal.
Exactly.
You are in control of your life and what you do with it and what you say.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter if I get the backlash from this. What was most important is how my family, my husband and my children are going to receive this. That's all. Not my siblings, not my nieces, none of that. So I will tell young women, don't wait for the validation. It's not coming. And it may come, but if it doesn't come, don't let it dictate your healing. You know, your healing. And the other thing that we do still is we protect our family. So we don't speak it. I have a huge family. This name that I have, my last name, is, you type it in, we're all related. It's a humongous family. So people were asking, well, what if your family sees this? They should. Maybe I'm saving someone in my family, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
And I know what there's over 40 million human trafficking victims worldwide, and less than 1% are rescued. And so prevention and awareness education is just so essential. And as a wife
exactly.
and as a mother, you're doing your part to save other children's life. Over 50% of sex trafficking victims are children. And so we
Exactly.
have to speak up and speak our truth so that we can help them.
A lot of the young women who I worked with and I was on the street with were taken when they were 14 and 15 years old. A lot of them. And they were in their 20s when I met them. They were in their 20s
Like
when I
six,
met them.
7 years on the streets,
On the streets. Exactly. Exactly.
being controlled by
So,
somebody else, working and not
exactly.
getting any money and exposing themselves to just everything
Exactly.
out there.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
No, it's amazing that you're able to share this story because you have a teenage daughter, plus you have a son, and boys are trafficked too. And
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of parents don't know the signs. You told me that once your daughter was being recruited by your friend, and it's only because you went through this, you were able to know the signs that she was
Right.
being recruited.
Exactly. Exactly. This young woman went to school with my daughter, and just like drug addicts, I work with drug addicts. They say they know each other when they see each other.
Mhm.
I can tell you, and a part of that is Nisa and I were talking about this, and I was talking about the gift, and she calls it a prophetess. And my daughter was told that she was going to be a prophet. And I often talk to her about the gift on how to be able to distinguish people in their personalities. And we met this young lady, and I just didn't feel right. I knew that something was wrong. And I suspected abuse the first time I met her. And the second time, she had 2, 3 phones. My husband and I were bringing her home from school, and she was talking about these guys who had gotten her these phones. And this phone was for this, and this phone was for that. And we went to drop her off, and it wasn't a legitimate drop off. It was like 3 apartment buildings down, so she said. And I said, well, we see you to your door. And she wouldn't walk to the door where she was going. And so I told my daughter, all those are signs that something's going on with this little girl. Every time you looked up at school, a different person was picking her up in a different car.
Those are red
BMW,
flags.
a Mercedes, Range Rovers, something's going on with this child.
Mhm.
And I told my daughter, you have to pull yourself away from that. Because what she's doing is she's recruiting you. That's
Mhm.
what she's doing. She's recruiting you. And my daughter was all confused and like, she's nice to me. She buys me lunch. Where's she getting money to buy you lunch? She
Right.
can work. She has 3 cell phones. She wears these designer clothes. Where's she getting money from? When I dropped her off the second time at her house, the house doesn't look like a house that you would live in and wear a Michael Kors,
Mhm.
Gucci. It doesn't look like that kind of a house. Something's going on with this child. So yeah, I had to pull her away from that.
As
And she
parents,
went.
we need to know the signs because we
You
can't
need to know
protect
the
our
sign.
children if we don't know the signs.
And don't, for God's sakes, I've seen so many parents do it. They don't want to know the signs. You don't want to
Yeah.
see the signs.
Mhm.
Because it's painful if your daughter's having sex. It's painful. My mother was in pain, but she wasn't an advocate for me. So the pain, you have to put that on the side. And you have to advocate for your child because I don't care how old they are, they still need their parents. They still need mommy and daddy. So you have to be mommy, you know?
Mhm.
And as painful as it may be, that child's depending on you and her life may depend on it for the rest
You
of
have
her
to
life.
speak up for them,
You have to
exactly, and
speak
figure
up for
out
them,
how to help them.
how to help them.
And we're
Exactly.
living in a technology era now where a lot of children are homeschooled, when now they're homeschooled not with books, but homeschool where they're online all the time, and perpetrators are online all the time and
They
have
are having
access
a
to them.
field day, the perpetrators are. They love this homeschooling stuff. My son the other week, something popped up on the computer and he came running. There's something that popped up on the computer and I don't know what it is. And his dad and I went in the room and we told him, don't ever answer it. We clicked it off. And it was some type of advertisement and you had to open the window for the advert to see it,
Mhm.
And I told him that's how people get to you. You open that window, they have access to your computer.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah, it's a paradise for perpetrators now.
It is. And we cannot protect our children 100%, but we need to give them the tools that they need to protect themselves. And educating ourselves so we can educate them. And
Exactly.
there are a lot of websites. There's my website that has information on it, mjscarlettfoundationinc.org. There's also netsmarts.org that has a lot of videos where you can educate your children from kindergarten until college age. At different stages, you'll be talking to them about human trafficking, because you're not going to be talking to a 6-year-old the same way you're going to be talking to a 13-year-old.
Exactly.
So they have videos for different stages so you can educate your children. So let's be proactive and educate them so we can save their lives.
Exactly. Give them the tools, right? We need the tools to build the house. So you want them to build a solid house and a solid foundation. Let's give them the tools to be able to do it, you know? Let's give them the tools.
Absolutely. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
I'm just grateful and overwhelmed at this opportunity. I feel like a weight has totally been lifted. I know we talked about, well, we can do it on the weekend. You're saying that. And I said, no, let's do it. Get it over with. I've been carrying this burden for so long. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be able to do this, and that you've afforded me this platform to be able to do this on. So I just want to I feel like a weight has been lifted. So when people are ready, you're going to feel a weight lifted off of you. If you just tell it. Tell, and speak your truth and live your truth. It's who you are, right? It doesn't define you, but this is who I am. Either you're going to love me and accept me for who I am. And like when I asked my husband, he was like, this is the sifting out part. Your friends and people who truly love you are going to be there to support you. And those who are living in fear, for whatever their fear is, you can't be responsible for their fear. They're not. So this is your sifting out part. This is another part of the protection of God over you. So just speak your truth.
Amazing. I just want to thank you for joining us today. You have an amazing family, and thank God for the wonderful, supportive husband you have that is with you on this next phase of your life, on this journey that you're, telling your story and writing your book to free yourself even more and to expose perpetrators so they know that, okay, you're not going to continue doing this and get away with it. We know what you do. And we know how to help to protect our children, and we're going to find different ways to protect them. So thank you so much for being here. And
I ask you one thing.
Sure.
I'm going to disclose to my daughter. Can we have a part 2? I want to come back so that people will know the outcome of that.
Absolutely. So after we air the show, then we can have a part 2 and let us know what your daughter thinks about it. So people will look forward to part 2, where Nadine is going to have tell her teenage daughter what really happened to her, and we'll hear what her daughter has to say. And she has an amazing daughter. Amazing. She's been on my workshop,
I just want to thank you for that.
Youth Summit. And she was very observant, and she participated in all the summits. So she has an amazing, intelligent daughter. So we're looking forward to her daughter maybe being on the show with you next time.
And I would refer your workshops. If you can advertise that and blow that up for people, because it has helped her. And the workshops are amazing, and they're very informative. And Tamara becomes a teenager. She's on the workshop with them. She becomes a teenager and they can relate. So yes.
Well, you know what? Having a 9-year-old, I go down to even his level to explain to him what it is. So whatever age group I'm teaching, I try to get to their level. I had a 6-year-old last year that I explained it to, and her mom saw me in the hallway at church, and she's like, oh my God. When my daughter came home, she was able to tell me what human trafficking is, and her daughter was only 6. So we have to, yes. And in fact, she paid for a workshop. She was one of our sponsors for a workshop in January, she and her husband. She was just so amazed at how much her daughter learned and how I was able to go down to her level. So
Wow.
yes, we have to take it to different levels to
Right.
explain to children and adults what's
Right.
going on. And I love having survivors on because, as you said, that people that have not experienced what you've experienced are not able to truly tell your story. I can read all the books that I want to read. I can watch all the movies that I want to watch to learn
Yes.
about it. But really, I have not lived what you have lived. I have not had your lived experience. And
Right.
so having you and other survivors share their story is the best way for me to help our audience to understand what really happens in the life of human trafficking victims and
Right.
survivors.
Girl, you have a blessing. You have a blessing coming to you in heaven. This is amazing what you're doing. I promise you it's amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes.
So everyone, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much and have a good day.